Hey everybody, it's Dr. Greg Barnes in Raleigh, North Carolina, and today we're going to be talking about the dangers of cell phones. These guys right here, that's my daughter. And really what independent researchers have come out and said about cell phones is that they are going to be the cigarettes of the 21st century. And I actually think about cell phones and the electromagnetic radiation that they produce, or another way of calling that is EMFs for short, EMRs or EMFs, is that cell phones and technology like it are really a big part of 21st century toxicity. And when we're talking about the type of effects and the negative effects that this has on our bodies, it's right up there with the other types of effects that other 21st century toxicity challenges are with as well. So when we're talking about cell phones, here are the major risks. I'm gonna summarize it for you very quickly. Number one, they found that men who carry these things in their pockets, it actually affects the quality and the quantity of your sperm because of the damage that it does to the reproductive system. And when 15% of Americans actually struggle with infertility issues, obviously that's a big thing. So they found that when you carried your pocket and your phone for just an hour a day, there was actually 11% fewer sperm. And then men that talked on their phone for an hour a day had 17% fewer sperm as well. So those are two different studies finding similar numbers. Another thing to look at is that over the past 20 years, which has been really when the greatest surge of cell phone usage has happened, there has also been a 40% increase in brain tumors themselves, which is pretty scary. And two specific types of brain tumors, glioblastomas and acoustic neuromas, have actually increased by 50 to 90% during this time. They found there was a 50 to 90% greater risk of those types of cancers when you use cell phones regularly. They've also found that regular cell phone usage causes a 50 to 60% increase in salivary gland tumors, which again, you think about brain tumors, salivary gland tumors, where do you hold your phone? Up near your head, right near that anatomy. Along with that, when they looked at 13,000 Danish children, so in Denmark, kids that use these cell phones regularly, they found there was an 80% increased risk of behavioral issues like ADD and ADHD. 80% greater risk of that and 80% greater chances of those kids becoming. So when you think about how many American kids, teenagers and younger, are using these things from a very young age, it's no wonder why we're seeing unprecedented surges and rising cases of ADD and ADHD. Get your kids off those phones, okay? Or at least limit their usage to them to less than an hour a day, which I think you'll be surprised to find out how fast that adds up. And when they looked at 420,000 Danish kids, so in Denmark, they're really, I guess, on the cutting edge of looking at how this electromagnetic pollution is affecting us. Looking at 420,000 adults, they found that people that used it were 10 to 20% having a greater risk of hospitalization from migraines and vertigo. And I see in my clinical practice lots of people who suffer from migraines. You know, the majority of the time there's always a neurological component involved, but using a cell phone on a regular basis would make sense that it would increase the chances and the severity of having either migraines or vertigo. And when you look at these studies here, the reality is that these are studies that have looked at people that have kind of used it for more than 10 years. And so our children who are maybe not even 10 yet, but have already started being around these devices from a young age, you know, who knows what the effect could be on them when they're 40 or 50 years old, like some of us are now, and been using them their entire life. You know, it's really, really scary, and we have to start assessing what that looks like. So back in 2011, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, or the IARC, which is a committee of 27 scientists from 14 different countries, and they were working on behalf of the World Health Organization, they concluded that exposure to cell phone radiation is a possible carcinogen, and they classified it into the 2B category, which is the same category that pesticides like DDT is, or lead, or gasoline engine exhaust, or burning coal or other dry cleaning products were also put into, just to name a few. We know that those are definitely carcinogens and causing cancer rates to go up like crazy. And this is a children's health expert panel. They concluded that there are 9 types of cancer that are linked to cell phone use, definitively. 3 different types of brain tumors and brain cancer: salivary gland cancer, which of course we already mentioned, eye cancer, testicular cancer, leukemia, thyroid cancer, and yes, even breast cancer. And so when you think about these things, this is a very, very, very detrimental impact on your health, and you have to start looking at minimizing your exposure to them. Eliminating is, pretty much impossible in today's day and age, but we can definitely look at minimizing it. So one of the main things is making sure that your children under the age of 20, right, are not using these on a regular basis. The brain is not fully formed until after the age of 20, and the skull of children and teenagers is also not as thick. And so in several Russian studies, they found that the penetration of holding this up to your head goes about 80% deeper in a child's skull than it does in an adult skull, and so causing much more damage to the tissue there. And so here are some strategies to help with that. So number 1, again, keep teenagers and children away from these things, or dramatically eliminate and minimize their exposure to it. You can get things like talk on earpieces, all right? So having a headset rather than holding the phone directly up to your head. Another kind of just even easier strategy would be to talk on it on speakerphone and holding it away from your head as well, especially if it's going to be a shorter call. They actually found that texting, of course, is going to emit less radiation from that. So although, of course, text neck is a whole nother problem, okay? It is actually safer. So you can consider texting with your phone elevated up, okay, and using better posture when doing that. And you may look weird, but at least you won't develop arthritis or degeneration in your neck like everybody else will, okay? Just a little plug for chiropractic there. Also, trying to actually talk when your phone is on a stronger signal. So when you have 1 bar or less, or even really 2 bars or less, your phone has to use more power to connect to the weaker signal, so therefore it increases the radiation. So if you're traveling through an area where it has weak signal, just wait a little bit till you get to 3 or 4 bars again, or a stronger signal. And really, again, that would help if you can probably minimizing or eliminating your usage when it's not needed. Another huge thing, which I am super big on, is not sleeping with these things next to your head or anywhere near your head, all right? They send signals all night long, all right? And some of you say, well, I use this for my alarm, which I personally do, but put that thing like 8 to 10 feet minimum away from your head. Put it across the room, which means you're less likely to hit the snooze button anyways, and then I would even put it on airplane mode and put it across the room. Airplane mode is not going to emit as much, radiation from that, although it does still a little bit. And really, you shouldn't be answering the phone or worry about who's calling you in the middle of the night anyways, okay? They have found that when they actually looked at 70 people that were in a study, half the people were put in a room as a control with no radiation, no cell phone, okay, radiation, and the other half were put in a room with cell phones, and they found that the group that had the room with the cell phone radiation had a much more difficult time getting into a deep sleep, and they actually also stayed in that deep sleep for a shorter amount of time, meaning that their quality of sleep was impaired. And they also found that their melatonin release, which melatonin is the hormone which helps you get into REM sleep faster and stay there longer, was diminished, all right? So it actually contributes to insomnia and difficulty sleeping. So if you have any of those issues whatsoever, and first of all, want to get more of a restful sleep, if you don't have any outward issues, put that thing away from your head. 2 supplements that work very well for protecting against the EMFs. Number 1 is turmeric, or the active component called curcumin. They found that, of course, turmeric is a great natural anti-inflammatory, and it does help battle the oxidative damage that EMFs produce, all right? So add turmeric every single day. I mean, you can slice it off and put it in your food. You can buy, curcumin in a powder. We sell a very highly potent form of it in our Daily Defense, which works really well. It's also great for arthritis, pain, and inflammation, and lowering LDL and cholesterol, which is also caused by inflammation, but that's a whole other topic. And probably my favorite one when it comes to electromagnetic pollution protection is ginkgo biloba. It's kind of a fun word to say, ginkgo biloba. I think I'm saying that right. And what I found through my research, which is very interesting, is that ginkgo biloba is actually the oldest living plant. So archaeologists and anthropologists have found that that is by far and away the oldest living plant that we have a fossil record for, which is great, which would make sense that it is highly, highly, highly beneficial for your health. They found that it actually is very neuroprotective. It protects literally neurons, which are your brain cells, when they're under stress. And so these things cause stress. So adding ginkgo biloba into your daily supplement routine is highly, highly, highly advised, even if you have a minimal usage of the cell phone. So I hope you all enjoyed this cell phone danger little YouTube video here. And remember, it's a part of 21st century toxicity, and there's lots of other ones. And we have an upcoming seminar on May 19th at 6:30 at the Summit Church, North Raleigh. Tickets are on sale for $10 right now. They will be going up in the next week, and so get those tickets now. Get guests there. I'm going to blow you away with toxicity and helping you find safe and natural alternatives to the toxic products that you're using right now. You guys got to get off these things. Have a great week.